Kính thưa tất cả quý vị khán giả của đài VBS Canada, Diễm Hương đang có mặt tại buổi họp báo do lãnh tụ của đảng bảo thủ là ông Pierre Poilievre tổ chức để gặp các đài truyền hình truyền thông ở Canada để nói về đường hướng của ông khi đảng bảo thủ sắp cuộc bầu cử sắp tới, và ông cũng lắng nghe những nguyện vọng cũng như những thắc mắc, những câu hỏi của các sắc dân ở đây để biết được thêm là những cái nguyện vọng của người dân ở đây như thế nào. Mời quý vị hãy cùng Diễm Hương theo dõi phần trả lời câu hỏi của ông lãnh tụ đảng bảo thủ. Cảm ơn tất cả quý vị.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Pierre Poilievre is the leader of Canada's Common Sense Conservatives. He grew up as an adopted son of two school teachers. His wife Anna came to call Canada home as a refugee from Venezuela. Canada made and kept them a promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything. That hard work pays off with powerful paychecks that buy affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods. That promise, however, is broken after 9 years of Trudeau. Pierre's mission is to bring home Canada's promise. His common sense plan is to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. He wants to bring home the country we knew and still love. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the leader of the Common Sense Conservatives and the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
Thanks to all of you for being here today. It's great to be back in this great metropolis and to reach out to all of the independent media that's not controlled by the state and by the big corporations so that we can speak directly to your many readers, listeners, and subscribers. I think we'll start with the obvious fact that everything right now in Canada, everything is broken. After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, life costs more, with food prices having gone up 37% faster in Canada than in the United States. A gap that opened and widened as the carbon tax came into force. Who would have guessed? You put a tax on the fuel of the farmers who grow the food and the truckers who ship the food. You tax all who buy the food. Now we have a record-smashing 2 million people lined up at food banks every single month after 9 years of NDP Liberal policies. In fact, 1 in 4 kids are going to school hungry. Some food banks are running out of food altogether. There's a Facebook group called the Dumpster Diving Network. It's a group of people sharing tips on how you can dive into a dumpster and get food out of it. You could imagine, we never thought this would happen in Canada. There have been stories of hospitals that have had, in St. John's, for example, to bring in freezers that they put in their parking lot for dead bodies because family members can't afford to come and take home their dead for a burial or a cremation. They're that poor. These are stories that would have been unthinkable before this NDP Liberal government took office 9 years ago. And now they want to hike the carbon tax further. On April 1st, another carbon tax hike will kick in, and they plan to quadruple the tax to 61 cents a litre by the year 2030, which will devastate our entire economy as truckers and factories and others will simply leave the country to go to the United States of America. Meanwhile, housing costs have doubled. Vancouver and Toronto are now the 2 most expensive housing markets in North America. They've gone up faster in Canada by far than any other G7 country. In fact, we have the fewest homes per capita of any G7 country, even though we have by far the most land to build on. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder are overtaking our once tranquil and safe streets. Immigration is totally out of control, with population growth 3 times faster than the growth in the housing stock, with massive, rampant fraud in the international student program, in the temporary foreign worker program. Our young people can't find jobs because multinational corporations are bringing in low-wage workers from poor countries in temporary positions at Tim Hortons and elsewhere. All these workers are good people, they're decent, hardworking, they're making great sacrifices, but they are being exploited by the greed of government and corporations combined. Our immigration system was the best in the world before this NDP Liberal government took over. And of course now, in this moment of incredible weakness, President Trump, who built his career in the most cutthroat real estate market in the world, Manhattan, the jungle of New York real estate, he can spot weakness from a mile away. He looks at Canada under the NDP Liberal government of Trudeau, Freeland, and Carney, and he sees weakness. So what is Trudeau doing now? Well, they're going to change the name of the leader, but they're going to keep everything else the same. They're going to bring in either carbon tax Christia or carbon tax Carney. But both of them are just like Justin. They all supported his carbon taxes. They supported his housing policies, his immigration policies. I mean, in fact, carbon tax Carney, the only disagreement he had is he said that carbon tax should go up faster and higher than Trudeau was raising it. And so they will try to trick you, though. They will, right before the election, they'll say, oh, we've changed. We're completely different. Ignore everything we've done for the last 9 years. But of course, they haven't changed. If they were ever given the chance, they would not only do the same destructive woke agenda, but they would do it on steroids. So the answer, my friends, is we have to fire this NDP Liberal government and bring home the country that we knew and loved, a country where hard work earns a powerful paycheck and pension that buys affordable food and homes in safe neighborhoods. That was the promise of Canada. When I was a kid growing up to 2 school teachers, they taught me, if you work hard, you can do anything in Canada. And they were right. That was the country my wife came to as a refugee from Venezuela. 6 people in a small basement apartment in East End working class Montreal. Her dad would go out into a farm field and pick fruit so that he could pay the rent. That's how they started, and now they've all been very successful. That's the dream every Canadian should enjoy. We're going to bring home Canada's promise with a common sense plan to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. We will axe the carbon tax to lower gas, heat, and grocery bills. We will cut income tax so that hard work pays off and you bring home more of each dollar you earn. We'll take the GST off, the federal sales tax off new homes to save you up to $50,000 on your purchase. And I will reverse the capital gains tax increase that Chrystia Freeland brought in her most recent budget, so that our small businesses and home builders and other entrepreneurs can grow and hire more people and benefit from the sacrifices that they make. In fact, I'm going to pass a big, beautiful, patriotic tax cut. It's going to be called the Bring It Home tax cut. It will cut taxes on work, investment, making stuff in Canada, home building, and the purpose will be to bring home paychecks and production to this country. We've lost $500 billion of investment from Canada to the U.S. in the last 10 years alone. That means our investment dollars are building American pipelines, American mines, American business centers, American technology. I want to bring that money home for our people, but it means we need to lower taxes and speed up permits, make this the best place on earth to do business. We will stand up to President Trump's threats. We will never be the 51st state. In fact, we will be more independent and sovereign than ever when I rapidly approve energy and resource infrastructure so that we can do more of the value-added jobs here in Canada rather than just giving the Americans our raw material and having them profit off of it. The only way to do it is to have fast permits with low red tape and very low taxes. That is the only way you will attract businesses to do the stuff here in Canada and bring home our money and our jobs for our people in this country. We will have homes again. We're going to build more homes. Not only will I take the sales tax off new homes, I will incentivize local governments to speed up permits, free up land, and cut development taxes to build 15% more homes per year. We will cap immigration below the level of home building, so we always build homes faster than we add people. We will stop the crime as well. Our crime is just raging out of control now. After 9 years of NDP Liberal catch and release, hug-a-thug policies that allow the same repeat offenders to be released again and again and again and again, often within minutes of their latest arrest. It's crazy, you know. In Vancouver, they had to arrest the same 40 offenders 6,000 times. 40 criminals got arrested 6,000 times in 1 year. That's each one of them getting arrested every 2 days. Like, they basically have to be doing crime all day, every day, in order to get arrested that much. Why don't we leave them in jail? It's very simple. If they're in a box, they're in a cage or a gun grab, and want to take away the property of licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested hunters and sport shooters. We know that the licensed firearms owners are not the problem. Anyone who's going to hand over their licensed firearm to the government is by definition not a criminal. So that's not the guy we need to go after. We need to go after the guns. They come in, 82% of guns for crime in Toronto come from smuggling. They're already banned. They're already illegal. We need to ban the criminals. We're going to ban drugs, shut the drug dens, no more of these consumption sites that terrorize and ruin communities. Instead, we'll put the money into treatment and recovery services to bring our loved ones home drug-free. We will end the abuses of our immigration system, including by reducing the numbers, ending the abuses in the temporary foreign worker and international student program that have grown up under the NDP Liberals. And we will keep our nation safe with a stronger military. I intend to cut foreign aid, and I will put that money into rebuilding our armed forces, bring our money home for our soldiers, sailors, and airmen to secure our North American continent. And what I will say to our American friends, we want a secure North America, but we need a strong economy to do it. Drop your tariff threats. Let's deepen our trade ties. And we will use the resulting economic growth to help fund a bigger and more powerful Canadian military that will keep the Russians, the Chinese, and other aggressive players out of our Arctic, that will keep us secure and safe from terrorists and drug runners. This is how we will be strong. We will take back control. Everything is out of control right now. But we are going to take back control of our lives and our country. We're going to bring home Canada's promise and make this the best land of opportunity the world has ever seen. Thank you very much. Let's bring it home.
Thank you, Pierre, for that very clear and detailed plan. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. We're going to start with the media outlet Saint-Amarai. Yes, question, please.
Okay, give him a chance to other.
Okay, moving on to Hindi Times.
Hi, Pierre. I never thought that my number will come so early. Anyway, my question is a bit long. Under the Trudeau administration, relationship became worse between India and Canada. So much so that India has compared its relationship, Canada's relationship, as compared to Pakistan. And I will say that similarly, Mr. Trudeau has put India equal to China for interfering in Canadian politics. Now, right now, the relationship between India and Canada is at the worst situation. When you become a Prime Minister, how are you going to tackle it? And especially, you know that Harjit Singh Nijjar's issue was dominant everywhere. And so, were you briefed about it? Or what is your take on it? As India is a democratic country and Canada is also a democratic country.
Well, I will put Canada first. Canada first, Canada first, Canada first. Everything we do will be about making Canada stronger, safer, and richer. We will work with all democratic allies around the world to achieve that. We need a strong professional relationship with all of the democracies of the world. Obviously, that does necessarily include India, which is the biggest, the most populous democracy on planet Earth. As for Mr. Trudeau talking about foreign interference, my answer to him is release the names. He claims that there are MPs that have participated in interference by foreign governments. He says he has intelligence of that. Don't keep it secret, make it public. Put the names out there. I'm not worried about it. I have nothing to fear of the names being public. I'm confident that I've seen no evidence to suggest that Conservative MPs behaved inappropriately, but if I'm wrong, prove it. Put the names out. You know, it's very interesting. Justin Trudeau goes out and makes allegations against other Canadians, but he says he can't tell you who those other Canadians are, and he can't give you any of the evidence. This is insane. Release the names now. I have nothing to fear, and nor should he, unless, that is, he and the Liberal Party are as compromised as I suspect they are. Thank you.
Moving on to Darshan Maharaja.
Thank you, Mr. Poilievre.
Thank you,
Good to
Darshan.
see you again.
Likewise.
My question is about the additional capital gains tax, which we learned recently that it is already being collected by CRA. Now, from a layman's point of view, I think this is illegal. But my question is a little bit broader than that. How do you prevent public service from overstepping its authority and in fact encroaching on the authority of the parliament?
Well, good question. First of all, the capital gains tax increase will make Canada one of the most highly taxed jurisdictions for investment in all of the developed world. So, very simple. Capital goes where capital grows. And it can't grow when you've got the highest taxes on investment anywhere. And it's going to kill 400,000 jobs, this tax increase, according to C.D. Howe. That's why I will reverse the tax increase. Your question was about how CRA is enforcing it, even though it never passed Parliament. Chrystia Freeland announced it, she introduced it, but it never got voted on. And yet, the tax collectors are implementing it. This is insane. And it should be illegal. The 800-year-old tradition of parliamentary democracy, going back to the Magna Carta of 1215, is that the Crown cannot tax what the people have not voted. It's very simple. No taxation without representation. That was the reason for the American Revolution, the Tea Party in Boston, was that the Englishmen who were living in America didn't want to pay a tax that they had not voted for. So that, this is hundreds of years of tradition they're violating by imposing a tax that no one has voted on. It's totally illegal, and it's not the first time. When COVID started, Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau tried to pass a law allowing them to have unfettered ability to raise any tax to any level at any time for any reason without a vote in Parliament, which tells you exactly what their agenda is. They think all your money is their money. That is the hardcore socialist mentality that they have. It is very dangerous. It is destructive to our economy, and it's why so many people are so poor. When I'm Prime Minister, it will end. I will be cutting taxes, massively cutting taxes, and I will be cutting bureaucracy. You mentioned bureaucracy. I will be cutting bureaucracy. We don't need so many costly bureaucrats. We're going to slash the bureaucracy, and we're going to slash the consultants and all the money that's being wasted in this big, fat, morbidly obese government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Fairchild TV.
Hi, good evening, Mr. President. So, as you talk about rising crime, stop declines, we know there are many truyê robberies happening in Market and Richmond Hill recently. So, how will you protect the local Chinese community businesses and property safety?
We're going to lock up the criminals. there will be mandatory prison time. So anyone with a rap sheet, a long rap sheet of crime, will be ineligible for bail, probation, parole, or house arrest. They will go to jail and they will stay in jail. And I think we need to change parole. Right now, parole, it's an automatic right, basically, isn't it?
It is.
You get convicted and the judge says, okay, your sentence is 5 years. But 5 years doesn't mean 5 years. It means what, a year and a half?
Actually, even worse than that. They're eligible after serving 1/6 of a sentence.
1/6.
1/6. So in this case, 5 years, 10 months. They're eligible.
And that's basically automatic, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, you should have to serve the entire sentence, and maybe we should bring in something where they earn their release through, not just by behaving well. Behaving well should be the bare minimum, but by doing exceptionally positive action in prison, like doing a work program, or getting a skill set, or taking regular drug tests to prove they're no longer addicted to drugs. We can't just let people out automatically on statutory parole, and I will be getting rid of that. It's going to be, the sentences are going to be very long. And if that means more people in jail, then we will be doing double bunking. There will be more than one prisoner in each cell. And you know what, though? I don't think there'll be more people in jail, because I think many criminals will be frightened and they will stop doing crime. And so that's the approach we're taking. Jail, not bail. Jail, not bail. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving next to Latinos Magazine.
Hi, it's Poilievre. Luis Ibarra, Latinos Magazine. Building a strong and diverse team is essential for leadership, especially here in Canada. Have you considered what qualities and perspective you will prioritize in your team? How will you ensure your team represents diversity in Canada?
Well, my recruitment is going to be based on the merit principle. People who are the most qualified are the ones who get the jobs. And they're going to have to win nominations by selling the most memberships in their neighborhoods. So we don't appoint candidates to run for us. We let the local party membership choose the best local candidate. So I basically say we live in a free and open country. If you want to be a member of Parliament for the Conservatives, go and sell the most memberships and win the nomination. You'll get elected. That's how I want the economy to be. Hard work, talent, brains will drive promotions, demotions, and success. And that's my approach. I think we need a colorblind country where we judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, where everyone from everywhere, anyone from anywhere can do anything, regardless of what their name is, where they come from, where they were born. That's the Canadian promise. Thank you. Thank you.
Far West Herald.
Hello.
Yes, hi there.
I'm more interested on the economic vandalism that we have mentioned a lot of times. One would be the capital gains tax hike, the corporate welfare and subsidies, let's say the 9 million on edible crickets.
Yes.
1 billion green slush fund.
Yeah.
50 million for MasterCard. And then, of course, the carbon tax and environmental regulations. I'm just wondering what happened after were there any investigations or any closure?
On all these, yeah, well, there's ongoing police investigations. The Green Slush Fund is now under police investigation, isn't it?
It is.
Do you want to give us an update on that investigation?
I wish I could. The RCMP have confirmed a number of investigations with respect to the Green Slush Fund as well as the Arrive scam. Apart from identifying up to at least 6 investigations, they've not provided any details because it's an ongoing case.
So the Green Slush Fund, in that case, the millions and millions of dollars was given. Basically, they appointed government officials to give out all this money, and it was supposed to bring green jobs, green businesses. Well, what happened is the government officials gave money to their own companies. And there were how conflicts of interest? 160 conflicts of interest or something?
186.
186 conflicts of interest in this one program that represented tens of millions of dollars. We've been trying to get the documents, but the government is covering it up. But this is your money. You wonder why your taxes are so high? These people are stealing your money. And when I'm Prime Minister, we're going to pass tougher anti-corruption laws to crack down on this kind of theft. And I will be slashing corporate welfare. We're now giving $40 billion in handouts to mostly large corporations. That's just at the federal level. Why are we giving money to large corporations? Aren't they supposed to make their money by selling products and services to willing customers? I thought that's what it meant to be a business. You guys get any of this 40 billion? It's only well-connected political insiders with lots of money that get the money. So we want to slash this and use the savings to reduce taxes for all people. That way, and businesses. That way businesses keep what they earn rather than taking what you earn. You agree with that?
Yeah, and we haven't put closure yet on the We Foundation.
Well, the We Charity, that's another scandal.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to Canada, your new home.
So thank you so much for your non-stop efforts. We appreciate it. And the question is about those people who are afraid when the Conservatives are in power. It's going to affect the immigration sector. It's going to be more strict and, a stricter policies. So what would you say to that?
Well, it has to be stricter. I mean, it's been the last 9 years have been a total disaster. Look around you. Has this been good for immigrants? Look at the immigrant communities, how difficult it is to live. In Brampton, they had found 26 international students living in one basement. Like, it's insane. In Canada, we have the highest level of sustained per capita immigration rates pretty much anywhere in the world for 50 or 60 years, and it was not a problem. Because until basically 2021, 3.5 years ago, for reasons I do not understand, suddenly and inexplicably, we went from growing our population by about 300,000 people a year, 1.2 million people a year, out of nowhere. Like, I don't know how this, nobody even decided on it, or at least nobody talked about it publicly. Do you remember any decision or debate on this in Parliament? And the result is we have a housing shortage, we have food bank shortages, we have now increasingly job shortages. We need to take back control of our immigration system and bring in people in numbers that we can absorb into our housing market, job market, and healthcare system. So what I will do is create a formula that will cap the population growth below the growth in the number of homes, jobs, and doctors. That way we will always guarantee that we have the ability to care for the people who do come here. We'll end the fraud and abuse, and we'll also, by the way, there's some great things we're going to do for immigrants. We're going to bring forward a blue seal that will allow provinces to sign on so that immigrant doctors, nurses, engineers, architects can quickly take a test, prove they're qualified, and get licensed to practice in their profession. That will make those immigrants who are here more successful and greater contributors to our country. Thank you.
Next up is Contact.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Poilievre, what's your view on possibility of increasing sanction to Russia due to the war in Ukraine? And also, 3 years ago, a Russian airplane was arrested here in Toronto Pearson Airport, and last year, Ukrainian Prime Minister put forward the idea to transfer this plane to Kyiv. So what's your perspective on it?
So what was the last part?
Yeah, like Ukrainian Prime Minister, like he said that that's going to be like a good idea to transfer this plane to Ukraine. So
okay.
Yeah, what's your view on it?
I have to look more into this particular plane, but
He's the huge plane right here in Toronto, Houston, and
Yeah.
like everyone's like know about him.
Okay, I'll have a look into that. Thank you for raising
Yeah,
that.
what about
More-
sanctions?
But you know, we supported sanctions. We are against Russia's invasion, unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. We think that one of the best ways we can help is by breaking European dependence on Russian gas by sending our clean, green Canadian natural gas to European markets. And that way we can bring the jobs back home to Canada rather than having that gas, the natural gas market in Europe fund the Putin war machine. We supported giving the CRB missiles to Ukrainians. Our government was going to dispose of them and destroy those missiles, and the Ukrainians asked for them, and we managed to secure those as conservatives for the Ukrainians. Hopefully, Mr. Putin will realize that this invasion is a pointless enterprise and move on so that the people in Ukraine and the people of Russia can have peace. Thank you.
Next up, Waitemashki.
Oh, sorry. I didn't actually prepare the question. I didn't know that you were on the list. But actually, my question would be about AI. What do you think about the proliferation of AI and how Canada should be taking part in it?
I think it presents enormous potential, but also enormous risks. First of all, AI requires a phenomenal amount of electricity. So when you do when you do a ChatGPT inquiry, you consume about 10 times more electricity than when you do a Google search because of the computational energy that is required in order to process answers to these questions and to run large language models. That is why Meta, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon have all decided they're going to either buy or refurbish nuclear plants. So the point is that we have the ability to produce a phenomenal amount of electricity to host data centers. That would bring hundreds of billions of dollars of investment to our country. We have clean hydroelectricity. We have the biggest supply of uranium for electrical generation anywhere in the world. We have extremely cheap natural gas. In fact, in Alberta, in some cases, it's almost free because it's a byproduct of oil production. And we could use that to host massive data centers that would bring hundreds of billions of dollars to our economy. So we need to rapidly improve energy, the mining, the factories, the data centers, so that we can bring that production here to Canada. And that's one of the things that I'm going to say to President Trump. We could be a source of energy for the data-driven economy, and you won't have to rely on hostile foreign enemies. And you can't produce, the Americans cannot produce enough electricity to do it because they have already 350 million people for whom they need to provide electricity for daily life. It's going to be very difficult for them to build the surplus necessary so we can be the center of data power in the world. We also have to make sure the government doesn't take over AI, because then they will use it for censorship, for control, for manipulation of the public. And I will be standing on guard against government abuses of AI and other similar technology. We saw how governments tried to abuse our civil liberties during COVID, and I would not put it past government officials to try to do the same thing again now that they see AI on the horizon. Are they going to try and take over the mathematics of AI and prevent it from being used by Canadians as citizens and require it be done through the government? I don't know, but if they are, that's a very big risk. So we have to protect our freedom. It could either be an enormous advantage in giving more freedom and more prosperity to our people, or it could be a tool of oppression. by government, and we need to make sure that it is the former and not the latter. Thank you.
Thank you.
VBS is next.
Thank you for organizing this today, and I appreciate it because you do want to listen to the ethnic communities, so which is great. Given the growing attention on diversity and inclusion, how do you plan to ensure the ethnic communities are adequately represented and have their voice heard in key policy decision making?
Well, the answer is freedom. We have a free country where people, anybody who wants to run for office, speak their mind, express an opinion, open a news outlet, is free to do it. And that freedom is the real source of diversity. It's not government programs or new government bureaucracies or government grants. It's the freedom of every individual to speak their mind and participate in the democracy. I think we should treat everybody as an individual. We should stop breaking people down into various groups, and we need to develop a more common Canadian identity. We're all part of one country. We're all one people. We're not hyphenated people. We're a united people for Canada. Thank you.
Next up, South Asian Community News.
Thank you. This is Paul from South Asian Community News. My question is regarding the human trafficking cases, which has increased a lot in Canada. Soon we would be celebrating International Women Month in upcoming months. So what's your stance in regarding to it? If you come to power, so what steps you would be taking to reduce the human trafficking cases here?
So my wife has worked a lot on this, actually. She, if you ever go to her Instagram page, she chronicled, I think it was 10 different stories of captivity in our country who are being sold for sex against their will. This is an appalling scourge. I think we need to give the RCMP more focus on combating this scourge. It is an international crime, which is really the jurisdiction of the RCMP, and we need to bring in much more serious criminal penalties for those who participate. And I think, frankly, anyone who is engaged in human trafficking should be getting a life sentence behind bars, because I think it's as bad as murder, what they're doing. So I want a more robust RCMP team that can identify these crimes, a streamlined approach to get the charges laid, and very long prison sentences for those who are the kingpins who are responsible for these human trafficking networks. Thank you.
Next up, Hamdard.
My question is about the jobs in China. Most of the Canadians are struggling to get their jobs. In Canada, Canadians say that they have never seen this scenario before. So what is your plan to get them their jobs back?
Thank you. Great question. We need massive tax cuts for businesses and workers. So our businesses, we can cut taxes on investment in energy, then our businesses will have more money to hire workers, to start new businesses, to buy more supplies from other businesses. That's how you grow an economy. We need to cancel the job-killing capital gains tax hike, cancel the job-killing carbon tax. And by the way, carbon tax is destroying jobs already. If they quadruple it to 61 cents a liter, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people out of work, as truckers can no longer afford to bring parts to factories, food to grocery stores. We need to axe the carbon tax. We need to rapidly approve natural resource projects, not just in the West, but Northern Ontario. We have the Ring of Fire with all the most important minerals right there, but we can't get permits. We need to give green light to approve the Ring of Fire and get these projects going so that we can create hundreds of thousands of high-paying jobs that will have spin-offs right across our country. That is our common sense approach to bring home jobs for our people. Thank you.
Hala, Canada.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting us, and it's always great to be here. My question is, like, the ongoing threat by the U.S. and Donald Trump is going to be president in 2 days. what's your plan? Have you discussed this like in channels? Have you talked about how you're going to react to this with the U.S. partners? How are you going to work it out? And have you also talked to Amir Smith, the first premier, about her stand on this issue?
Thank you very much. Well, of course, we're in a position of unprecedented weakness because of Trudeau, Carney, and Freeland. They have weakened our country by destroying our economy, taxing our businesses, forcing $500 billion of our investment out of Canada into the United States. Our weakened military has become a major problem for us with regards to the Americans. And of course now Trudeau is trying to divide Canadians against each other rather than standing united against these unjust threats by President Trump. So first and foremost, my approach, I would say clearly Canada will not be and will never be the 51st state of America. Secondly, we will respond with strength. We need a strong Prime Minister who can face these threats and say to President Trump, you bring in tariffs on us, we'll bring in tariffs on America. And both sides will suffer. Americans will lose jobs, they'll pay more for their energy if they bring in tariffs on our country. I will reach out to American business and union leaders and say that these tariffs and this tariff war is killing jobs for them, and that they should pressure the administration to agree to us removing the tariffs on both sides. We'll also quickly approve resource projects so that we can have more of the value-added jobs here. Why are we so vulnerable? Well, because we've been blocking pipelines. Our biggest export is oil and gas. I know it's not sexy to talk about oil and gas. Sorry, it's the biggest net export we have to the Americans. Why are we so dependent on them? Because we don't have enough pipelines to get our product to other markets. 100% of our natural gas exports go to the States. 100%. Even though the Europeans and Asians are crying out for our gas. We have to give it to the Americans, and then they sell it. They buy it for $4, they can sell it for $13. That's how stupid we are. And they do that billions and billions of times every single month. Think about how many dollars they're making. They buy our oil for $60 and they sell it for $75. You know how many barrels, how many times they do that a day? 3 million times a day. You think of it, they make $15 on each barrel of Canadian oil we send them. Times 3 million. $15 times 3 million. Do the math. $45 billion a day in profit write-up they get on our oil. Why? Because we can't get our oil to any other market. We need to approve pipelines, LNG plants, upgraders, refineries, mines, and other economic infrastructure so that we are not so hopelessly dependent on one customer. That is the only way that we can ever be strong enough to assert our economic independence. Thank you.
Have you talked to
Prime Asia TV is next.
Thank you. Mr. Poilievre, Canadians are struggling and list is very long, starting from crime to inflation to jobs, and very long list. And then came an idea from President-elect Donald Trump that let's merge it, make it a union or North American union. When we talk to the Canadians, doctors, landlords, and many other professionals, they like the idea too. And we are, as a politician, we are just cancelling out the idea, because when we see the American media, they are in the favor and they are saying it will be a big superpower. Donald Trump said the 60% taxes will be reduced, will be cut, and Canadians are suffering with higher taxes, with crime. And we have Honorable MP Larry Brock here. We know that how the prosecutors, the repeat offenders are there in the market. Today also one carjack happened. So landlords, the professional tenants are looting them. We are not able to change the laws, whether it was 9 years ago, the conservative government or a liberal government, we are into the standstill. So what you will say, the message to those Canadians, those who are in a favor or float an idea to become a North NAU, North American Union, so that we have one currency, one law, and become a superpower in the world, because the European Union dollar is stronger than US dollar. What is your viewpoint on that?
We will never be the 51st state. We will fix these problems ourselves. We need to tackle the inflation, the housing, the crime problem with a new government. These are not Canadian problems, these are Liberal problems. Every problem you describe about Canada today is imposed by the Liberal Party of Canada. So Justin Trudeau and carbon tax Carney, carbon tax Christie. They're the ones that cause the misery that you've described. The answer is not to get rid of Canada, the answer is to get rid of the Liberals. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we've got essentially 20-25 minutes left.
Okay.
We have to keep our questions short, tight, and we have 18 other outlets to get to.
Okay.
So that in mind, let's move on to Voice of Toronto TV.
Good evening, Poilievre, one important question that I have for you. We all know that you are an awaiting Prime Minister. And what are the first 90 days of your Prime Minister opinion? And what are you going to focus on in Canada?
I will axe the carbon tax. I will take the GST off new homes. I will reverse the Liberal tax increase on capital gains. And I will bring in very powerful penalties for financial penalties for municipal politicians that are blocking home building. Those are things that I will do right out of the gate. And it will definitely be within the first 100 days that will happen. All of those things. There are obviously bigger problems going forward, but if you ask me what I'm doing right out of the gate as Prime Minister, axe the carbon tax, axe the sales tax on homes, axe the capital gains tax hike, and put relentless pressure on our municipal politicians to speed up affordable home building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Forum TV.
Mr. Poilievre,
Yes.
it's a pleasure to be here today. So as Ukrainian question has been already mentioned here by one of my colleagues, so I have a quick question concerning the immigration measures for Ukrainians. As you know, the QED program is over now, so could Ukrainians be sure that the Liberal government won't throw them away from this country as the war is continuing?
Well, I don't think anyone wants to throw them away. I think we've had a lot of great Ukrainian immigrants come. I mean, this is nothing new actually for Canada, as you know. We've had Western Canada was largely settled by brilliant and hard-working Ukrainian farmers. Etobicoke was built by Ukrainian workers. So we've had a great experience with bringing Ukrainians to Canada, and I think we'll keep under my leadership that will continue to be the case. Thank you.
NTD TV.
Good evening, sir. My question is, Canada is currently facing foreign interference, which could also impact the next election. And how would you address this issue?
Well, we need to get the foreign influence registry set up as soon as possible. It has been passed into law. It would require anyone who takes money from a foreign government to influence Canadian politics to have their name posted online so that they can be identified. We need our intelligence bodies to act in a non-partisan way to expose any attempts by foreign governments to influence the outcome of the election. We know that Beijing interfered in at least 2 elections to help Justin Trudeau win. He knew about it. We now know he was briefed on it. He did nothing because he was benefiting from it. And the Liberal Party will always put itself ahead of the country's interests. We need a government that will put Canada first, and that is what we will do to crack down on foreign interference and other threats to our country.
Abler HD Canada. TLN.
Good evening, Mr. Poilievre. Jesus Bustamante calling TLN Media Group. I'm accompanied by Aldo Felice, the president of the company. My question is regarding multiculturalism at DEI. The multiculturalism promise that was once given over 50 years ago by the Canadian government is slowly being shifted to these DEI policies that, at the very least, become minute for minorities. and at the very most exclude minorities from opportunities. So my question for you is, what would be something that you would say to individuals that are now being marginated from through these DEI policies in the Canadian?
Well, I think DEI is a toxic Marxist policy that is designed to turn people against each other. It is the woke ideology is to divide people into different groups and then turn them against each other. You know, we used to have in this country a beautiful tradition that it didn't matter where you came from, you could come here, continue enjoying your culture, your food, your songs, your traditions, but the problems that you left in your country of origin would stay there. It wouldn't come onto Canadian soil. And so you had people of all backgrounds living together. It started hundreds of years ago. The Protestants and Catholics, they had been tearing each other's eyeballs out for hundreds of years in Europe. They came to Canada and they got along. And that was the Canadian tradition. We leave the world's problems at the door. And when you come into Canada, you are a Canadian, regardless of your religion. Whether your name is Martin or Mohammed, Chang or Charles, Smith or Singh, Poilievre or Patel, you come here, you're a Canadian. And you're judged by your merit. You work hard, you follow the law, you've got a great life. And if you don't do those things, then it won't be so great. That's what made our country the envy of the world. Now, everyone's fighting with each other. We see foreign conflicts spilling onto our streets in violence like we've never seen before. Fire bombings of churches, synagogues, and other places of worship. Terrorist attacks against mosques, attacks at manders and gurdwaras. This is not the Canadian way. Hate crime is up 251% in the last 9 years of this radical DEI policy. I thought they'd tell us that it was supposed to bring so much harmony to the different groups. What it has done is divided people and turned them against each other. Why does the government want to divide people by race? Divide and conquer. They turn people against their neighbor so that everyone then turns to the government, gives the government more power to censor, to control, and to direct. We need to do away with that and get back to the Canadian tradition. For anyone who comes here, they're a Canadian first. We judge people on their personal merits, not their race, their religion, their ethnicity, or anything else. That's the country my wife came to as a refugee from Venezuela. It's the country that waves of immigrants have come to, and that is the country we were going to bring home when I'm Prime Minister. Thank you.
Flowers TV.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Poilievre, and it's my privilege to be here today. As country is going through a very bad situation, and as the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself lost his confidence in keeping his promises and publicly declared his resignation. So I just wanted to address the common problem of the people, like diminishing economy. I think most of them has been covered, and excessive housing price and the cost of living, fall in job opportunities, unsafe neighborhood, and especially the healthcare sector, long wait in the emergency cares, and the shortage of the specialized doctors. Mr. Poilievre, what will be your vision to remove this impediment and to empower the great nation as dynamic industrial power?
Listen, I think we have to bring home the country that we knew and the country we still love. This was, we had a big, beautiful, free enterprise economy before the NDP Liberal government, where we removed bureaucracy and taxes and allowed people to work hard and achieve things. We rewarded risk takers, whereas you could go out and start a business, take a risk, you mortgage your home, and it pays off, you got to profit and enjoy the blessings of your own work. We allowed our workers to get ahead and keep more of their paychecks. So if they got an overtime shift or they got a bonus, they got to bring that money home for themselves. That's the country I want to restore. Let's make this a big, open, free enterprise economy with boundless opportunity for anybody who's prepared to work hard. That's the Canadian promise, and that's what we're going to bring home. Thank you.
Next up is Love Bay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Thank you. What ideas or thoughts that you have concerning entrepreneurial development, especially at the small scale level? Because many of our great Canadian ideas go to be developed in other countries.
Yes.
Because of the next to that.
Yes, you're right. So we need to get rid of red tape, speed up building permits, get rid of the capital gains tax increase to reward people who risk their money on new ideas. And speaking of new ideas, you're right, one of the biggest problems we have is that we invent technology in Canada. We're great inventors of technology, but we don't commercialize it here. So we invent it, all across Waterloo, we have great inventors who produce incredible breakthroughs. And then what happens? They get bought out by the Americans, the Irish, the Swiss, the Singaporeans. They take our technology as soon as it becomes profitable. Why is this the case? The answer is we're a great place. Canada's a great place to take money. It's a terrible place to make money. If you want to get a grant to develop a new technology, you can get a grant. You develop the technology, and wow, you say, oh, I've got a breakthrough now. I'm about to make a profit. Well, where would I like to make a profit? In Canada, where the taxes are 53%, or in Florida, Ireland, Singapore, where the taxes are 17 or 18%. And so as soon as either the idea or the person becomes profitable, they go where they can enjoy that profit. And that's not Canada. So we need to cut taxes in Canada if we want to keep our best investors here. You go to Waterloo today, and you say to a young graduate of a master's program in electrical engineering, here's your choice. You can go to the United States, you can buy a castle for $500,000 in some U.S. states. You pay 20% income tax, and you earn American dollars. Or you can stay in Canada, pay 53%, and by the way, it costs you $1.4 million to buy a home, and you earn Canadian dollars. What choice do you think they're going to make? That's why we're losing our brain power, our capital, our businesses. I want to bring it all home by cutting taxes and red tape, make this a great place to make money again. Thank you for your question.
So folks, this is where we would normally end. We had a hard stop at 7:30, but Mr. Poilievre is graciously offering more of his time for a few more minutes because of the exceptional turnout.
Yes.
So next up is EI Popular.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Poilievre, 9 years ago, we believed Mr. Trudeau's promises. What makes you believe that we can believe yours now?
Well, look at what I've done for my entire career. I've been saying and doing the same thing since I got into politics in 2004. When I was part of the previous government, I helped cut the GST from 7 to 6 to 5%, cut income taxes, cut small business taxes, passed pro-energy laws, helped balance the budget, passed tough on crime legislation. When I was housing minister in 2015, the average house in Canada cost $450,000. The average rent on a one-bedroom was $900. So that's my track record. You judge you predict someone's future performance based on their past actions. And those are my actions, and they are the best indication of my future actions. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we roughly got 10 minutes left. We have 11 outlets. Let's keep these questions very, very short. BCC TV is next.
Thank you so much. Honorable, I celebrate you. I want to just ask a question regarding the healthcare and the privatization. Representing Black Community Canada Television, there are concerns that your campaign's emphasis on reducing wait times and increasing efficiency in healthcare, that it could actually lead to privatization. So please, can you clarify your stance on privatization and how you would balance the needs for efficient healthcare with the principles of universal access and public delivery?
We believe that no one should be denied health care because of an inability to pay. After 9 years of the NDP Liberal government, we have increasingly privatization already. We have an increasing number of Canadians who are already going to the United States to get care out of pocket because the system is overburdened here in Canada. 2023 was the first year on record where we actually saw the number of doctors go down, even as the population of Canada grew by 1.2 million people. Obviously, that is an unsustainable dual trajectory. Fewer doctors and 1.2 million more people. So a lot of this I can't administer because it's provincial. The provincial governments run the healthcare system. we send a check. I said that I'll continue sending increasing healthcare transfers to the provinces. I'll also work with the provinces to get a blue seal professional licensing standard right across Canada so that the 20,000 immigrant doctors and 32,000 immigrant nurses who cannot work in Canada today can take a test, prove they're qualified, and get working with a license that allows them to move to any province or territory. That would free up a lot of doctors for a lot of people. So there's a practical idea that wouldn't actually cost money, and it would bring a lot of doctors to people who need it. Thank you.
Why media?
Hey Pierre, how's it going?
Yes,
this is
sir.
Shubi from Why Media.
Thank you.
Well, we all know the two front runners for the Liberal leadership, Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland. I wanted to know what your remarks are on them, and is there anything that you're looking out for with both of them?
Carbon tax Carney and carbon tax Chrystia are just like Justin. Chrystia Freeland has been in charge of the budget for the last 4 years. How's the economy been doing? I don't think I need to say anything more about that. But the other guy, carbon tax Carney, here's a guy, he's a government bureaucrat, then a government banker, and now he spent the last few years as a glorified lobbyist for corporate welfare funds, going around trying to get grants and subsidies and handouts from the taxpayer for the wealthiest corporations in the world. And by the way, he has the most radical policy agenda. He believes the carbon tax is too low. He said it on the record. He thinks the carbon tax is too low and needs to go even higher than Trudeau has already placed it. He will be the voice for the billionaire, globalist elite that have been impoverishing the working class around the world for the last several decades. He is the golden boy of the World Economic Forum, and he will be a disaster if he ever gets anywhere close to power. And we know that because he has been Justin Trudeau's personal economic advisor. He's the chair of Trudeau's Economic Growth Council, even to this day. Google it, it's on the Liberal Party website. So if you think that Justin Trudeau has done a bad job on the economy, you know who's been pulling his strings? Carbon tax Carney. They're both just like Justin, and that's why we need a carbon tax election to fire them all and bring home a common sense conservative government. Thank you.
Thank you.
G Media.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre.
Yes, sir.
So when we hear the slogan, jail no bail, readers would be interested to know, will there be any policies and plans to back this slogan, or will it just be a nice and catchy slogan?
Well, there is already policies to back it up. I already said earlier that we will make anyone with a long rap sheet of crime ineligible for bail, probation, parole, or house arrest. So that is a policy, and it will be a policy that I will put into law. I've said I will also repeal C5, C75, C83. So those are all policies.
MC Radio.
Yes.
My question is, like, if something like other than these two races coming into Liberals' leadership, then how is Conservative Party going to deal with that politics?
Sorry, the politics of the Liberals having a new leader?
Yes, no. We already have that. They don't have a leader now, but if the LC is coming other than Carney or Chrystia, how does Conservative Party is going to deal with that politics?
Well, it depends who they are. Do you have any ideas?
No.
Are you planning on running?
No.
You'd probably be better than any of them.
But it won't take things to happen, right?
True. True.
And
Good
on March,
reminder, right?
on March 24, has to be something that.
That's a good point. Yeah. You give me something to think about, that's for sure. I can't comment on what I haven't seen. Thank you.
Parvasi.
Mr. Poilievre, good evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't have any question. I just want to remind you about your promise that when you become the Prime Minister, you will take care of this ethnic media people in particular, because corporations like CBC and all those big media outlets, they are getting millions of dollars benefits.
Yes.
But these people are struggling, they are in crisis, they want to survive.
Yes.
So they play such an important role. You recognize that always.
Yes.
So what will be your policies for that technique?
Well, we want, first of all, I will get rid of C18 so you can get your content back on Facebook and Instagram. We'll get rid of C11, the other censorship laws. We will also make sure that independent and multicultural media gets its fair share of government advertising. Right now, they give it all to the big corporate media. And I will be defunding the CBC as well, so that we won't have to compete with CBC right now. It's unfair. The CBC, they go in with subsidies and they take advertising from the independent, self-reliant media. It's totally unfair. So by defunding them, you won't have that problem to deal with. So those are some things that we'll do to bring freedom of the press to all Canadians.
We hope it will be your priority list once you become the Prime Minister. Thank you.
Adler HD Canada.
Yes.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Yes.
My question to you is, like you said, that Canada is totally broken, and we have so many challenges, not just externally but internally also. And as per you, you will put in some major policies within the first 90 days. But what will be the topmost priority that as soon as you become the Prime Minister of Canada, you will do that will not only solve that immediate problem, but also be a foundation for something long-term in Canada?
You mean like a goal or?
Right. Like right now, Canadians have lost trust in everything, and right now we don't even have a whole and stable government. So what will be that something that Canadians will start getting their trust back on the government?
I think if they see in the very early months that I do what I said I would do, then they will regain trust. So this guy was serious. He meant what he said, and I will move very quickly to do the things I promised within days. And I think that will embolden Canadians to feel like they've taken back control of their lives. I think people feel like they've lost control of their lives. Do you get that sense? Lost control of their crime, the cost of living, the way their kids are being taught at school. Everything's out of control, and they want a strong Prime Minister who will give people back control of their lives. And that's what I will do on taking office. Thank you.
AHA Radio.
Good evening, Mr. Poilievre. Thank you. And with the government's recent adjustments to Canada's immigration levels and policies, how do you assess these changes in terms of their impact on Canadian jobs, housing, and social services? Would you make any significant changes to the current immigration system, as we did have a little talking on that? And if so, how would you balance the need for skilled workers with the concerns about the pressures on our public services?
Thank you. They've made a lot of bold reversals in the last 6 months. You know, they brought all the problems they say they're solving are problems they created themselves. We didn't have any of these problems before. I'm not convinced that they're actually going to do the things that they're announcing. I think they're putting out these words to calm people's anxieties over the out-of-control situation we have in our country. But I'm not convinced that they will actually do any of it. I'm also worried that we don't have the capacity to deal with people who are here illegally. The government published a report 6 weeks ago which said that they didn't know how many people are in Canada illegally, but that academic estimates are somewhere between 20,000 and 500,000, but, and I quote, there could be more. That was what they said. Between 20,000 and 500,000, but there could be more. That, you know, doesn't give you a lot of assurance. We have 5 million visitor visas and permits that come up for expiration in the next 18 months. That's probably some duplication there, so it's not necessarily 5 million people, but it's millions of people. What if they decide not to leave? What if they try to go south? Our American friends will take it if people who are in Canada on expired permits head south of the border. I think we're going to be in big trouble. So we are going to have to identify people whose permits are expired and no longer have status here, and find a way to send them back to their country of origin. We're going to have to rapidly process refugee claims, because there's now all of a sudden this enormous spike of people who are claiming refugee status, even though they were never refugees. So how are we going to process those? We need to speed up the processing, tackle fraud, and quickly remove people who are false refugee claimants. All of these steps are going to be necessary to take back control of our immigration system, our borders, and our country. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for not being able to get to everyone.
Let's plow through. Let's plow through.
Okay.
Plow through.
Okay, next is Awaz.
Yes, Honorable Leader.
This is Muhammad Tariq from EWAS.
What? Oh, we have two people from EWAS.
I know myself, I don't know about anybody else.
You go for it.
Yes, thank you very much,
Yes.
Honorable Leader. My question to you, first of all, thank you very much. One of a very good news what we got is for the doctors and nurses.
Yes.
That you do have a very good policy in place for them.
Yes.
My other question is, for the young people, I understand those investors, they can buy houses, and I know that is your priority to resolve that problem. What about the young people, those who want to buy the first-time home? They do have very many hurdles about the mortgages and all those things. And it is a common saying that a young couple or a first-time home buyer, it has become very difficult to buy the first home for themselves.
Yes.
Do you have any plan for that?
Yes, I'm going to axe the GST on new homes. I'm going to push the provinces to take their provincial sales tax off. That would right there would save over $100,000. The biggest cost for a new home in Canada today is government. Government. It's the government fees, charges, taxes, delays, consultants, lobbyists, lawyers, accountants that you have to spend money on. We spend more money on bureaucracy in each new home than we spend on the carpenters, electricians, and plumbers who actually build the homes. We have to slash that bureaucracy. So I will be requiring municipal governments to cut their fees, their wait times, and to free up land if they want to get federal infrastructure money. And I think we should have a nationwide campaign to get all governments to lift taxes off home building. Federal sales tax, provincial sales tax, and excess development charges. That makes up 1/3 of the cost of a home in Ontario today. We need to slash that, and I think I would encourage you to push all politicians at all levels of government in all parties to take taxes off home building. You agree with that? Yes, absolutely.
Next is Awaz Entertainment.
Hi, this is me, Mr. Poilievre. Good evening. Great to see you again, sir. Very nice strategy, cut the taxes and everything, but please make sure this benefit goes to the consumer, the people who own this house first time, or this is their capital home.
Yeah.
This is principal homes are at risk at this moment of time, because the builders, they're looking as or the investors as devils. They are looking as enemies. They want to do anything to take their home. So if it is not controlled, you will probably have, in addition to 800,000 homeless in Ontario, probably more very soon. So this is a suggestion. This is a concern actually. We come from people. They like to see you as a prime minister. They see you're the person who can face the crisis we are facing as a nation. So they see you doing it very well, and you are the best choice at this moment.
Thank
you. I'm very sure next time we meet you will be prime minister of this country. And we will support you all from the bottom of our heart.
Thank you so much.
Please make sure, because they trapped us. They gave us a promise that interest rate will never go up or will be there for some time. But then 8 consecutive increase has crushed many people.
Yeah.
Now the builders are crushing us, and the banks are. We need some support. When you do that, please make sure the benefit goes to these consumers, not to these builders and the banks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a good feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Oxygen TV.
Thank you, Mr. Poilievre. I have two quick questions. One of them, there is a rumor in the media says that the Conservative will cut some of the family payments like tax, child benefit. Please confirm or correct. The second thing, you did say that you will have another way to sell our oils through the Europe or Asia.
Yes.
It was not successful in the past 70s and 80s. How will you make it successful this time? Thank you very much.
We are going to protect and preserve the Canada Child Benefit. It was the Conservatives that originally brought in that benefit. We will protect and preserve it when I'm Prime Minister. We want to put money directly in the pockets of parents. We need to repeal C-69, the anti-energy law. We need to grant rapid permits to LNG plants. So, as I said earlier, the natural gas price in Canada today is $4 per million metric British thermal units, $4. It's $13 in Europe. So we can sell something that costs $4 here for $13 there. It's the same in Asia, very high price in Asia. The Indians, the Chinese, the Vietnamese, the Thais, they would all love our natural gas. So would the Greeks, the Germans, and the Japanese, they've all asked for it. But we have to be able to liquefy it so that it goes on a ship. And these are massive projects. Like we're building a $40 billion plant right now in northern British Columbia. There's a second one that's going in at Squamish already. Very slow approvals though. It's taking 14, 15 years to get approved. We should approve these things in 10 months. And in fact, what I'd like to do is have some pre-approval of sites. Say this area is approved for an LNG plant. And then the investors can say, okay, we've got a site approval. Now we have certainty. Let's put down the billions of dollars and get building this thing. There's proposals in Newfoundland, Quebec, British Columbia, but it will help all of Canada. So I will be moving forward with that very quickly. Thank you.
Times TV.
Hi, this is Sayed from Times TV. Thank you for the opportunity. My question is regarding the immigration. What is your position on current immigration target, and how would you manage the integration of newcomers into the workforce and in community?
Well, the current target is not. The problem is they're not going to meet their targets again. You know, they're making a lot of promises, but they're ultimately going to break the promises because they have no way of doing it. We need to have very low population growth for the next 2 or 3 years, and then thereafter it has to be capped below the growth in the number of doctors' homes and jobs. That is the only way we can get rid of the shortages in healthcare, housing, and employment. And when people do get here, we need to attract people who have job offers and skills that Canadians need. Those are the people who will be most likely to succeed in our country, and that's what we will prioritize when I'm Prime Minister. Thank you. Maybe we can have all the questions bundled up, and then I'll answer them all in one time, including remarks.
Yeah, we can do that. Sure.
Yeah. So
I was going to call next on Epoch Times Persian.
Yeah.
As the new U.S. administration is putting some pressure on Canada, how do you think Canada should basically best convince the U.S. to still work with Canada and to put pressure on hostile regimes like Chinese Communist Party and the Islamic Republic of Iran?
Thank you.
Yes, so that is doable later. G Media.
Already done.
Already done. Thank you. Pakistan Times.
Yes, that's here. Times Pierre. I just have a question you already answered. I think Ozen's died on a healthcare list meeting. So 2024.
Yeah.
So that's not my concern. That what will we take? Already.
Okay. Anyone else?
New Pathways.
Go ahead.
One more Ukrainian newspaper. Mr. Poilievre, taking into account the fact that your party didn't support the Canada-Ukraine free trade agreement, our readers would like to hear from you what concrete steps you plan to take to support Ukraine in its fight against Russian aggression? Especially, do you plan to allocate 2% of GDP to Canada's defense sector, or do you have any plans to increase humanitarian aid or supply military equipment to Ukraine?
And the last one goes to Sentamarai.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity. I have a question. What can Canadians expect from you in the initial month of taking office as the Prime Minister? What will be a priority of change?
Thank you very much. So the first question, we are willing to work with the U.S. administration to combat hostile foreign powers, especially the Iranian regime. We led the charge as conservatives to criminalize the IRGC. I want also to identify the 700 plus IRGC officials that are in Canada today so that we can deport them. We need to increase sanctions against the Iranian regime and cripple the finances of their members, and continue to support the freedom movement, the Women Life Freedom movement in Iran, and I'm sure that the U.S. administration would agree with us on that. We will also support the administration's efforts to get an expanded Abraham Accord to unite the Gulf Arabic countries with Israel in permanent peace. That, of course, will require isolating Iran, which has been the provoker of all the violence we've seen in the Middle East over the last several years. So that's where we stand on that, and we will be prepared to work with the U.S. administration to achieve that goal. On healthcare, again, I think most of it is provincial. I can't run the hospitals as a federal prime minister, but we do need a blue seal to get immigrant professionals licensed and working in our healthcare system. We have opposed the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement for a very specific reason. It included promotion of a carbon tax. It's right in the text, so it shouldn't have been in there. I don't know why we have a carbon tax in a trade deal. It's never happened before. I'm running an entire election campaign on Axe the Tax, and there's a carbon tax in a trade deal, so I'm voting against it. So it's really easy to spend a lot of money on anything. It's much harder to get results. In the Harper era, we didn't spend 2%, but we bought the Globemasters, monster aircraft, enormous planes. We bought the Hercules tactical airlift. We bought the Leopard 2 tanks. We bought incredible military kit for our frontline forces. We helped crush the Al-Qaeda in southern Afghanistan, and we did it with less money. You know, would NATO have preferred if we had spent more money on bureaucracy, botched procurements, and other waste so that we could say we were at 2%, or would they have preferred that we actually went in and did our job of crushing Al-Qaeda? That was the job. So I'm going to be focused on delivering for Canada's security with a more powerful military that protects our continent, more than I'm going to be focused on doing it in the most expensive possible way. We need to do things, we need to get more value for our money so we can keep taxes down while keeping support for our troops high. Again, the first steps, my priorities on taking office: axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Thank you very much.